Next, Chris Packer, then Walter Hucklebee. They want to go together. All right, we can do that. Well, thank you for your patience, gentlemen. Please, whoever wants to go first, state your name for the record and give us your testimony.
Yes, to the Chair. My name is Walter Hucklebee. I'm the president of the African American Contractors and Business Association in Cincinnati, Ohio. And we flew in today especially to speak before you in support of African American contractors in the state of Minnesota. I'll give you a brief history as to how we came here today. We were contacted by one of our friends a few months ago, actually a year ago, concerning the plight of African American contractors in this city and in the state. We are consultants and also business owners. And in the city of Cincinnati, this past year, we had a disparity study which was voted in the affirmative. And so now we have the ability to have a race-based system versus a SBE system. We also had a disparity study at the state level for our ODOT. And they are now in non-compliance. The thing that we found out through our investigation is that a lot of our state-run programs, especially DBE programs concerning our ODOT and your MnDOT, have things in common. And the things that are in common is that they're woefully disregarding the goals and numbers that they set forth. Like I said, our ODOT is in non-compliance for not meeting those goals for at least 10 years. Your goals actually are, or your numbers are actually worse than ours. I can't say that is a good comparative because we have more African Americans in our system than you do. But my thrust of what I want to say today is that we have to come to a different strategy and different means to right the ship. Through attrition, through systemic racism, and a number of other pressures that come to bear, we actually have a much smaller pool of African Americans to draw from. And so something has to be done differently than what has been done. I listen to a lot of people speak about education. I think that we have to introduce career paths earlier in children's education. We've talked about training after the high school. That's a good thing also. But after you do all those things, after you become a company, after you graduate, after you've been trained, and you come out into the workforce and find out that there's a barrier or several barriers that keep you from growing, that keep you from sustaining business, that keep you from having a lineage of business. There are no 50 and 60 and 70-year-old African-American contracting companies in the city of Cincinnati. And the reason for that is because we don't have longevity, we don't have the contracts to support being able to pass on that wealth and pass on that knowledge. So something has to be done a little bit differently than what has been done. I suggest that there needs to be some type of private sector and government partnership to fast track the building of the workforce and also the rebuilding of those who would go into business and actually hire people. It takes a while to build a company that's substantial. Part of it is having a trusted network or a person that you believe can consistently do the work. If you're not allowed to do the work, you can't build up that track record in order to substantiate receiving those contracts. If you don't have the experience, you can't have the contracts. If you don't have the contracts, you can't afford to compete. The other thing that is happening is that in the DBE program, especially with ODOT and MnDOT, you can't overcome the larger companies' ability to compete at the same level. In other words, their ability to purchase and their ability to receive contracts overrides your ability to compete. The amount of work that they receive allows them to work at lesser margins, in other words, I'm sorry. And so even if you bid the same job, you could come in a little higher than they could. It doesn't mean that your numbers are not correct. It doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing, but it also, it definitely means that through their ability to capture more of the market, they have the ability to work at a lower margin. And that can't be competitive. One of the things that we suggested at our ODOT meetings is that we remove or you graduate companies out of the program sooner than later so that the people that are actually competing and the people that the program was designed for actually help them. We've, developed millionaires in the DBE program, which shouldn't be in the DBE program. It also allows larger companies to consistently be able to budget throughout the year what their income is going to be, because they know for a fact that year after year after year after year, they're going to be included in those contracts. And so that disparity is something that we go all over the country trying to inform states of and inform people of. And I know it's not something that you guys are not unaware of, but it is the thing that sucks the economy dry. In other words, you have companies who are pass-throughs. Pass-throughs are a siphon on the economy because they don't actually produce anything. They don't produce workforce. Because they're really just recycling the workforce for the people that they're working for.
Mr. Hucklebee,
yes, sir.
we're over the 5 minutes here. Are you just about finished with your testimony?
I'm just about finished.
Okay.
So
wrap it up if you can.
Yes, I will. And so we want you to take a look at MnDOT's operation, the way that they operate, and to amend the way that contracts are executed and given. And Mr. Packer is going to give you some numbers concerning that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Packer.
My name is Chris Packer. I'm the president of Rotex Incorporated, which is a union reinforcing steel contracting company. We are one of, I would say, roughly 4 100% African-American owned companies in the United States. We've been going after the data for the DOT processes, and I would like to share some of the data with your own state. In 2015, MDOT spent $784,000 with contractors. African American, black Americans received, black American men received roughly 1.1 million. Black women received nothing, anything for the whole year. On that handout, as you see, where the graphs are showing, that was provided. You have in the DBE program, you have minority groups, and then minority groups is Black Americans, Native Americans, Asian Pacific, and Hispanic Americans. Okay, between those groups, male and female, okay, we all only received roughly $4 million. Okay, non-DBE Caucasian male companies, and including Caucasian female businesses, earned 94% of that $284 million. So when you talk about you having an inclusion economic disparity meetings, we felt that it was critical for us to bring this to your attention. As Mr. Hucklebee said, our state right now is in non-compliance. And that non-compliance came down from the federal FHWA. And we are also now in non-compliant by the FTA. I know our numbers is significantly better than MDOT, so we're asking that this board engages MDOT and before the FHWA declares your state in non-compliance. And when they declare your state in non-compliance, they can totally shut off all the DOT funding for your highway projects. Now, 18.4% of the gas tax that comes from the Federal Highway Authority, from the DOT, that is shared by each one of the respective districts in your county. You got 8 districts, okay? So all of that 8, in every parts of those 8 districts, if you look at the handouts, you would see that, you know, it's kind of hard to run a business off of a $1 million spend with African Americans, male and female, for an entire year. So we're asking that some of we're asking you to look into your MDOT department before the FHWA does.
All right. Well, thank you for your testimony. We'll, Representative Mullery?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to I have a couple questions to try and clear this up. My understanding was that whatever initials you used from the Fed was concerned about our the amount of DBEs totally we're not meeting. I thought that was it, not specifically African American. I thought if we were going to separate that, I was told by some attorneys that we had to get a waiver to split up within the DBE between women and people of color, that we needed to have a waiver to do that. Is that wrong?
Mr. Packer?
To the chair,
Yes.
to Mr. Mueller.
Mullery.
That's actually possible. Now, what happens is that waiver needs to get submitted to the Department of Transportation. Now, you can have a race-based general neutral division in this. You just got to ask for it.
Mr. Chair,
Representative Mullery?
I think that's correct, and that's why I've had in for a few years a specific bill to force MnDOT to request that waiver.
Mm-hmm.
And so your earlier testimony kind of confused that. We can't do it until we request the waiver, I think. That's my understanding. So
Okay.
if that's different, we can clear it up later.
Oh, yeah, okay. Why don't you guys talk offline about that? And otherwise, we appreciate your testimony, and we can look into it. Thank you very much.